Well, hello and welcome back to Little State Big Voices with myself, Shahida, and my fabulous co host, Tracey.
Hey y'all.
And I'm saying that because the head wrap is giving a whole new life. I love it.
Do you like?
I
Is it
do. I love it.
giving West Africa? Ashe, ashe. So
Is that what it's saying?
that's what the head wrap is speaking
Okay,
to
I
you.
love it.
It's also saying Tracy didn't have time to do her hair before the recording.
If that's not time, if that's perfect for not time to do your hair because I had no time to do mine and this is all I came up with. So,
A bang is always a lifesaver, though. I will say
and a ponytail, but I'm like this close still to going back to that pixie because I love it.
the pixie cut is fire on you. It does look good on you. But that's the thing when you cut your hair, that transition period between short and your full length is
Hmm.
it's a struggle. That's why I usually do braids when I do that.
I know. I just don't know what I want to do for the summer. But anyway, tell me about this head wrap, ma'am.
So this head wrap, you asked me if I got it yesterday because we were at TEDx Roxbury and they had vendors, and we'll
Hmm.
get into that in a little bit. But the reason that I'm wearing this head wrap, or not the reason I'm wearing the head wrap, but the story behind the head wrap is that when I graduated from high school in 1993,
Hmm.
my husband bought this for me to wear at graduation, but it was supposed to be a scarf to go around, like, when people
Oh,
graduate,
okay,
they get
okay.
the long, skinny one, right?
Hmm.
So, us METCO students at Wale in high school, there were probably about 7 of us graduating that year together, maybe 7 or 8, and we decided in our to, express our culture by wearing kente neck. It's supposed to be the neck scarves over our graduation attire, our gown. And so I told my husband, like, go, at the time he was my fiance, I said, go to Nubian Notion or one of those stores down Dudley and get me a scarf to wear.
Hmm.
And this is what he came back with, a big piece of cloth.
You didn't explain.
And but what I did is I just folded it up real thin and I still wore it around my neck. If I can find the pictures
Uh-huh.
of me at graduation in 1993, and look
Mhm.
how amazing this still looks. That's how
I
old this
love
is.
it. I know, and you really can't. I mean, maybe it'll translate because I can't see like the colors of it now. Maybe it's the lighting. It's kind of like shaded over, but just I only see really the style.
It's very vibrant when you see it
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
live in person. And I know maybe it'll all clean up when the recording is done. It's reds,
Yeah,
black, greens, bright yellow. You could not tell that this thing is what, 32 years old.
crazy. That's
32 years
crazy.
old. And
That's
I've
crazy.
kept it all this time, and I've kept him all this time.
Oh, Tracy's husband is a sweetheart. He looked like he will bruise you up bad, but he's a sweetheart.
Definitely. That's one of the
But he
reasons I
might
keep him
bruise you up
around.
bad. Don't play with that man. Don't play with
Listen,
that man.
security is in the building at all times. At all times.
Exactly.
And now I got two big sons too. So when I walk around with them, people are like, is she famous? Because why
That's,
does she have Secret Service with her?
that is hilarious. Well, so today is Cinco de Mayo because when this releases, it's going to be Cinco de Mayo. Do you have any plans for? I
So
know there's a lot probably going on.
what's funny to me about Cinco de Mayo is that I consider this to be a very American holiday. I don't know.
It is.
I usually when I celebrate it, to me it's the same energy as like a St. Patrick's Day. Like, oh, I'm gonna wear green on St. Patrick's Day. I'm gonna eat tacos or have margaritas on Cinco de Mayo. Not to disrespect the Mexican culture, I really don't even know what the holiday is for, but I
Mhm.
feel that it's been over colonized and commercialized so badly that what's ironic is the main people that are going to be turning up tomorrow are probably the people that got us into the pickle that we're in right now. So
Get louder for the people in the back because I
so
was
much
just about
irony.
to say that. For
So
the
much
people who be
irony.
like, no, we don't want immigrants.
Right. Right. You
And we'll
pushing
be celebrating a culture that you don't want to celebrate their people.
the primary consumers of the margarita,
Mm-hmm.
the ones that want a wall and mass deportation. But anyway,
So you brought up something about Michelle Obama, and I wanted to get into that because I also want to tell people if you have not listened to her podcast with her brother,
yeah.
go and listen to that. That is probably my favorite podcast right now.
What's the name of it again?
It's called IMO, like in my opinion, and so people
Uh,
got it. It's so good. It's such a different side of
she has
her.
amazing guests.
Oh my god, so many great guests, but then everything, and I don't know if it's appropriate for people, not appropriate, but if it will resonate with people under 40 as much as it does with people who are of a certain age.
And it doesn't have to.
Right, it doesn't. And that's what I actually love about it because all of her conversations seem to be like, except she did have one last week about a couple of weeks ago about picking a career and not being sure. She was talking about like she went to school for law and
Mhm.
realized pretty quickly on that that's not what she really wanted to do. And I did not know that.
Interesting.
So she jumped around to a couple of different careers before she actually settled in as basically, our forever FLOTUS and, picked up, community service work. So yeah,
Mhm.
she bounced around and she said, don't be afraid of that. And I think the mentality that the last 10, 15 years is hustle, hustle, hustle. And what she's saying is like, no, you have to live and find your purpose. And it might not be about having 5 or 6 different streams of income. And I really like that because I think a lot of people got settled into that kind of like hustle mode and not enjoying life. You can have different streams, but how much are you working and how much are you enjoying? So I just love her podcast. But tell us again what it was that resonated with you this week.
So I will get to that, but I also want to add on to your point about careers. Like I was a serial career hopper, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily career, but job hopper in
Mm-hmm.
my 20s and 30s. It was
Mm-hmm.
like a running joke. People were like, "Oh, you left that job already?" Because yeah, if honestly, I was not willing to take certain things I was not willing to tolerate on the
Mm-hmm.
job. And another thing that people don't always tell you is that if you change jobs, you have an opportunity to get a higher salary. So if you
Mm-hmm.
start in one job and you're there for a year or 2 years, 2 years is like normally the sweet spot now that you can job hop. But back in the day, if you change jobs after 2 years, I was like, what are you doing? That's so unstable, yada, yada, yada. But it was an opportunity for me to say, okay, I want to ask for another 10,000, another 20,000. And I realized there was a pattern with that you could
Mm-hmm.
try to get more money if you changed companies, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily uh, the career, but the company.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured that out. And there was some things that I just, if I didn't like a job, I would quit in a heartbeat, but I would always have another job to land on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what I liked about what she was doing this past week was she had mentioned that she stopped spanking her daughters because it embarrassed her.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved the fact that she found herself, you know, I don't even want to say brave, but strong enough to acknowledge that about herself. Because as a mother, as a woman, as a caregiver, especially as a black one, we are taught that corporal punishment is the way to go with your kids. And often it starts early and it happens often. It's like you're tapping their little hands when they're barely old enough to walk. And that's kind of what was passed down a lot culturally. And it didn't matter if you were from the Caribbean or America or whatever. It was like you would spank your kids. And obviously, that isn't after effect of slavery. Like, and if people don't realize that, I'm telling you now that it is.
Mhm.
You know, slavery was very violent, very corporal, and we were taught to do that to our kids because we were taught that if we spanked our kids, it would keep them safe. When that is really not the reality. You don't
Mhm.
have to hit your kids in order to discipline your kids, and discipline does not have to be extreme. So
Mhm.
I love that she found the strength to acknowledge that what she was doing made her feel so bad that she stopped doing it. And
Mhm.
yeah, the girls smoke, yeah, they drink, but
They're grown.
they're grown. They're not they're not out here embarrassing their parents. Like,
Mhm.
I think they raised two great girls, and I don't think that, you know, harsh spankings or punishment
Mhm.
needed to be done. Every kid does not require that.
I feel like a lot of people, like what you're saying, a lot of people resort to that because one, you don't have the patience to deal. You're reacting out of anger. Sometimes you're reacting out of anger and fear.
Mhm.
That could be, a reason, but also too, like you said, when you have, I had my oldest, very sensitive child. So spanking him made me feel exactly the way that she did. Not just embarrassed, but
Yeah.
kind of like a bad person, because here's this person who's like very sensitive, and me yelling was enough,
Yeah.
to like, to shame or hurt his feelings. So I stopped as well. I'm pretty sure my kids would come back, but they'd be like, not 100% you did, lady. And I probably didn't. But especially when they were very young, that was not my go-to, because again, I didn't like that look of like fear. I don't want my kids to look at me and fear me. I wanted them to look and understand that, I'm upset about something that you're doing. I want you to reflect more on what you just did to make me upset, more so than you being fearful that I'm going to kill you or
Right.
something. So,
And don't
I,
get no,
mhm.
go ahead.
No, and I just feel like a lot of people are coming out of that stage, and I know a lot of people get a lot of pushback on, what does they call it now,
Mental parenting.
gentle parenting. Gentle parenting takes work.
Oh
Being
yeah.
a parent takes work, and it's your first reaction to hit or grab up or curse at your child. That's not necessarily the best way to be able to sit down and speak to your child like a little human being. That takes a lot of work. So I see some of the comments, and I see some of the things that people are saying, and I'm like, you don't have the strength to do that. Just admit that part.
And the thing is that, so gentle parenting is a fairly newer term that's been
Mhm.
coined, and to me, that's also an extreme.
Mhm.
I feel
Mhm.
like the culture of gentle parenting is also an extreme. I'm not saying it's a bad one, but I personally, I spanked my kids. I'm
Mhm.
also, I guess you could say, guilty of that behavior because I was spanked and I thought spanking my kids was also the right thing to do. But I never spanked my kids to the point of abuse. And I
Mhm.
think that some people don't have that, they don't have that spectrum.
Mhm.
It's either like the most harsh punishment where you're like, I mean, I remember growing up with kids saying that like their mom would beat them with an extension cord.
Mhm.
I used to get spanked with a slipper,
Mhm.
a chancleta. That was like very prevalent in my house. And I would get tag teamed by my mother and
Mhm.
my grandmother sometimes. And as a small person, as a child, I was like, this is not fair. Number one, because y'all are double teaming me. Number two, like, why? Like, what is the purpose of this? And to the point where you're crying to hyperventilation, even
Mhm.
as a kid, I understood this is not how this should be done.
Mhm.
And so when I had my kids, I did, spank them, but I didn't start early like a lot. Like, I don't believe in spanking toddlers. Now, don't get me wrong. If your kid's about to touch fire or something,
Mhm.
I could see someone saying like, okay, I'm going to tap their hand because I don't want them to touch the fire. But there are better ways to go about it. It's having, it's developing your patience muscle as a
Mhm.
parent. But I didn't spank my kids that much, I'd have to say, and I think I could probably count on one hand how many times I spanked my youngest, because I definitely evolved from the
Mhm.
first one to the last one.
Mhm.
And I remember my sister saying to me, "You don't spank your kids at all." Like, and I was like, "Well, am I supposed to be beating them down?" Like, I don't understand what you want me to say, but it just
Mhm.
goes to show like what what she thought was the cultural norm.
Mhm.
Not that she was saying my kids were bad kids, because they were not bad children. Or, and actually saying bad is probably not even the right way to go about it, but they didn't get into a lot of trouble as children. So
Mhm.
it was just like an observation that she was
Mhm.
making, and she was kind of surprised about it. And I didn't even realize that I wasn't a big spanker, but I definitely didn't hit my kids across their face either, which
Yeah.
I see
Oh,
other parents do. And I'm just like, and so that's what got me interested in even checking out the podcast that day, because the article that I read said why Michelle Obama stopped slapping her girls. And I'm like, slapping her girls? What are you
yeah.
talking
So
about?
was it what? Because did she talk about this on the podcast? Because I missed the last two, or was this in an interview that she was in?
She, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I just read the
I think it
article.
what might have been the
But I
podcast.
think it was on her podcast, and that was how I kind of got into it. But I'm like, slapping your kids across the face is a little diabolical. If you're
Mhm.
gonna lie, that's crazy. But I also don't believe in talking to your kids in the gentle parenting style that I'm
Oh, okay.
seeing,
I thought you was
and,
gonna go someplace else.
and the kids are not responding.
Yeah.
If they're not responding, then we need to ramp it up a little bit. Not gonna lie,
Hmm.
you know. But that doesn't mean screaming either.
Yeah, I do. And like I said, I understand a lot of people's go-to reaction, but you have to check your go-to reaction,
Mhm.
because there is a better way, because when you get angry at work, that's not your first response.
But to your point, a lot of times what people take out on their kids is their frustration with the rest of the world.
That's
You
exactly.
can't slap your boss. You can't punch your coworker. You can't, punch out that bus driver that was rude to you when you got on the bus in the morning, but then you go home and this vulnerable person is
Forgot to take the chicken
available
home.
to you, right, to become a punching bag. Like, let's not do that. And
Mhm.
what's another interesting thing is that I became a screamer. So
Mhm.
I traded one bad habit for another. So
Mhm.
instead of like overcompensating with like a lot of spanking, I would be screaming at the top of my lungs,
Mhm.
especially in the morning when it was
Mhm.
time for them to go to school and they were moving a little slow. I mean, people could probably hear me outside some days. And one day my husband came to me and he was like, you really don't have to yell like that. And it just took him pointing that out to me in a
Mhm.
very like calm way for me to realize I was being insane.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
stopped.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, yeah, I wasn't a
I
big
still
yeller,
raised
but I
my
had my
voice.
moments. Yeah. Mhm.
I still raised my voice, but it wasn't that
Screaming.
shrieking that
Mhm.
I was doing before. It was like, you really don't. And honestly, it made me feel better. Like
Mhm.
Michelle Obama said, it made me feel better to stop being like,
Overly
yeah, like,
angry. Yeah,
all the
yeah.
time. Yeah.
I've always found very, very shocking, and I see it a lot, and I don't understand why people put it on the internet. Is people cursing out little kids?
Hmm.
Why would you do that? Like, your first go to when somebody spills the cereal is dropping f bombs and b bombs. Yeah, that's a lot, and they put it right on out there, and
Yeah.
people really don't comment, but
And
yeah,
it's
I
also
like that.
identifying what requires discipline.
Hmm.
Spilling something does not require a spanking. It does not require you to scream at
Hmm.
your child. Now, knocking the milk over, we're going to have a serious conversation about that. If you're trying to be funny and you're knocking it over. But if you made a mistake and if your kid makes a mistake because they're a kid,
Hmm.
not going in on these children. Like,
Yeah.
it's too freaking much. And honestly, it's it's not good for you as a parent. It's not good for you as a parent because it makes you that's the kind of stuff that gives you high blood pressure and migraines and anxiety because yes, you want to keep your kids safe. So some things that they're going to do, you have to have a stern conversation with them about. And maybe discipline looks like, all right, your screen time is now limited. And I'm going to hold myself to that. But I think a lot of times people spank their kids out of laziness too.
Yeah, just I said that earlier. I
That's
think that that
what
has
you were
a
saying.
lot
It's your
to
default
do with it. Hmm.
because you as a parent don't have or have not developed the discipline to really figure out how do I discipline this specific child?
Hmm.
Because I have three and they all needed different styles of raising.
And that's one thing that people don't understand too. If you do have multiple, it is different styles for each one because
Mhm.
they do not behave and they don't need the same thing that another child would need. It always has to change up to a point.
Also, your kids are not you. Stop trying to act like,
Sometimes they
oh,
are, and that makes you want to kill them.
right. But stop putting your kids at the standard of your kids to yourself. Like,
Mhm.
oh, when I was in school, I XYZ. No, when you were in school, you were fucking up too. Like, stop doing this to these kids. Okay, you
Mhm.
don't know how many apples Johnny had after Mary came and took seven of them. You didn't know either, and your kid don't know. Stop yelling at them when they're doing their homework because
Oh my God. When you see people have it, like I'm telling you, I was not the homework person. I don't think I was a big yeller, but goddamn.
I didn't yell.
Goddamn, that was a rough time.
And I do get frustrated with my kids. I did get frustrated at them and I definitely did call them names, but they weren't in the room.
Oh yeah, I always say if they could have heard the mental that was going on in here, everybody be on the
I might
couch.
go in the bedroom and be like, "Yo, you don't know what these little assholes are doing right now." But I didn't say it to their face.
Oh God, too funny. Yeah. Well,
Didn't
so
say it to their face.
anyway, check out Michelle Obama's
Yes.
IMO. Definitely learned something, and then I respect what she's saying because as parents, you have to realize that some of the things that you did really affects the outcome of who your children become as adults, good and bad. So you have to take the bad as well, and then sometimes you have to go back and say, I didn't know, I didn't have the tools, and I
Hmm.
apologize for that.
Yep. And that's what will make us better
Mhm,
grandparents, right?
mhm. Oh yeah, don't even put us on that one because that's a whole nother level. That's
But
a whole nother level.
one more thing on this topic, and then we can move on, is that Benin, when I went to Benin in 2018, I think it was 2018,
Mhm,
I spoke to someone there who's like an elder, someone who's like well respected in the community, and they told me that some kids are not supposed to be spanked. Like in their soul and their spirit, there are some kids that you should not spank. And they're
mhm,
like, you will know, you will know. And they said this specifically about my younger son. And
mhm,
he, like I said, he's the one that I could probably count on all five fingers the amount of times he probably got spanked, probably not that many.
mhm,
And I that stayed with me as well. So that conversation stayed with me. Not to say like, oh, you got to beat down the the oldest one. It didn't have anything to do with birth order or any of that. They were saying the person that your kid is. Some kids just should not be spanked because it is not good for them and their development as
yeah,
an individual. And I
mhm.
was like, wow, that stuck with me too.
Yeah, I really think that is for a lot of kids. I mean, the majority, because again, because it's something that's done in anger. It's
Hmm.
not something that you have thought about or anything. It is reactionary. Even though sometimes people do plan that out, which to me is diabolical in itself. Like, I'm going to beat you at this particular time. And then
Did your teachers spank at school?
no. And I went to Catholic school for from the third grade until high school. No.
Did the nuns use the ruler?
No, 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 no. No. And most of the nuns that we had, it was a combination 50-50 black and white. But
Hmm.
no, corporal punishment was not part of, and that was like the late 70s up until, 80s when I graduated. So no, that wasn't part of
So
the curriculum.
I went to a private kindergarten. I guess all
Mhm.
kindergartens are kind of private if you pay for them. So I went
Mhm.
to a daycare. Let's say call
Mhm.
it a daycare. Um, in the 70s
Mhm.
and into I think I left there in 1980. They spanked certain kids
Mhm.
at my daycare. I don't know if it was like a type of thing where the mom or dad was like, "You can spank Keisha,"
Mhm.
and we would see this kid getting spanked,
Mhm.
but I think I didn't get spanked because my mom didn't go up there and be like, "Oh, you can hit Tracy." Plus, I was a pretty easygoing kid, but
Mhm.
also my mom worked for the Department of Social Services.
Mhm.
So I think they were like, yeah, don't touch that one
Mhm.
because they're going to shut this whole operation down.
I saw a video this week of this little girl who is I want to say she's on the spectrum, but she had heart surgery.
Oh,
Little girl, she must have been about 5 years old, and one of the workers came over and grabbed her, hit her on her chest, grabbed her up. She was playing with something, but the little girl had her iPad out and the iPad was recording. And so a couple of days later, her father saw it and it was on the news. And and went up to the school and they're saying that the woman was fired or whatever. But I feel like if that woman felt free to do that. So she's not the only one who's putting
that's
her
so
hands
horrible.
on someone at a daycare. And you've seen quite a few videos over the last couple of years where, especially in classes where there is some type of disability,
Mm,
grabbing them up really fast. And one was a boy and they kind of, threw him in the closet. And these are all videos that they've gotten. And I feel like in this day and age, daycare is so expensive and people are looking for the best daycare that their money can afford
mhm.
and with federal cuts or whatever, and these people don't, they're like CNAs a lot of times, they're underpaid, overworked, and they don't have any training. A lot of the assistants do. And so you have that's an industry that is flooded with people who are just working to get a paycheck, not necessarily working because that's what they love to do. And it's unfortunate, but I hear a lot of horror stories about children who were, spanked or beaten because like this little girl, that was a beat. That
That's
was a beat. She was
awful.
5 years old. That
First
was
of all, you shouldn't be, I don't think that teachers should be putting their hands on kids in a physical, harmful manner. You shouldn't really be touching the kids unless it's absolutely necessary.
not
Like,
trained
I gotta tie your shoe. But why get into this? This is what irks me. Why get into
for a
this,
check.
And if you realize it's not the place for you, go work at McDonald's, go work at somewhere else you could be abusive, like
Mhm.
K&G, where we were we were mentally abused by our cashier last week. Like
Uh,
go be a meter maid where you can really take your bullshit out on the people who
Sometimes it's easier just to get that job because they need the bodies because it's not a job that people are kind of like breaking their necks to get, and or a high tier job that pays well that people really want. Yeah, it's easy to say do something else, but if you don't have
yeah,
other skills, and that's the unfortunate part because then we're entrusting our babies, our grandbabies, our nieces, our nephews with these people who don't really want to be there. And with so many cases, just piling on top of each other, as a country, we're not doing better to make sure that one, they have a sustainable living, that they're being paid well. Minimum wage is still extremely low in many states. They're not being educated on how to deal with not only the children's feelings, but their own feelings. So we're not doing great in those fields of education, and then we see that our children are suffering. And if you imagine, you never beat your child, you never put your hands on your child, and then you see a video of somebody snatching your child up. even if it wasn't like a smack, but just grabbing them up very aggressively, that's gonna kill you.
So again, these are the type of things that would land me in prison. Because not only am I coming up to the school, the whole family's coming up there and we're waiting for you to come off work.
Hmm.
Because don't let me catch you doing that. And I remember I have a cousin who was like, I would be like, why don't you put your kid in daycare? Like, why do you stay home when you know? And she said, I'm not putting my kid in school until he can talk. When
Hmm.
he can
What
talk,
I said with my first as well. I stayed home for 11 years.
which is sad because
Mhm.
your child should be able to get like 2, 3 years old is when they really could use, especially if kids are on the spectrum, where they could use a lot of the early intervention. So if your
Mhm.
child's nonverbal
Mhm.
for years, when is it going to be a time for you to get that kid the services that they need? So it's very unfortunate that parents
But
feel
they
this
can get those services without actually being in school.
right, but then it's like, you know, how do you manage that if you don't have the right insurance or whatever? Sometimes those services have to be incorporated into a public school setting because of income,
Mhm.
so it's it's very difficult, and it's a it's a hard thing to have to decide as a parent, but
Mhm.
I do agree with you, but especially where daycare costs a grip, why aren't you paying these people? You're getting like $500 a week for some of these daycares. Why can't you pay the teacher a good wage, and why can't you also? But I think pay in some circumstances is not even the factor. The factor is, why would you go work with this population if you're not built for it? That should be something that people need to self evaluate. I
Mhm.
know I can't work with kids for a
Mhm.
long period of time. And I did like
It's a
bar,
lot.
I did Barbizon with kids who were like 10 or 11 up to 19.
Mhm.
That was the age group I was comfortable with. I don't think I could handle toddlers all day, every day, 5 days a week, 40, 50 hours. Like, I'm not cut out for that. So I
Mhm.
didn't get into that field. I got into, like, there are other jobs you can get with low skills. Well, all these people out here getting early childhood education degrees, you utilize, tap into those people.
Mhm.
They studied child psychology, they've studied parenting, they've
But it's the
studied
pay.
yeah,
It's the pay. You're not paying them to come in after they spend all that money,
yeah,
and on school, and then to come into that field. They're not paying them. They're paying them minimum wage.
yeah.
So it's it becomes one of those things that how we fail as a country when it comes to early education, when it comes to education. So
A lot of these daycares have cameras now too.
yeah, they do. Which is a good thing because a lot of them too. I think well, I wouldn't say most. I know of a few daycares here in Rhode Island where you can tap in
Mhm.
online and see what's going on,
Yeah,
which
through
I
an
just
app.
thought was, phenomenal because they don't know when tap in and might see them doing something that they're not supposed to do.
Yeah,
And you know what? Not every person is going to be the best fit. So I'm not going to, s- charge you on that. But if I see as a whole that you're doing the best and I'm, secure, then that's another thing. I don't think that daycare workers should be beat up on. We definitely owe them our support because they
for
have our
sure.
children.
The ones who are doing a phenomenal job, definitely.
Keep
They
doing that.
deserve all their flowers for sure.
Keep doing that. So what else? What else is going on?
Love Hotel.
Oh yeah, that's local. That's local. That's about as local as you can get.
Yes, our Rhode Island news.
Hmm.
So people may remember from last year, we interviewed Wale Alesh, and we talked to him about Yellow Cup. We talked to him about working in the tech space. We talked to him about a few different things, but we did not realize at the time that he was going to become Rhode Island's next big reality star.
I know. We got to find out how many Rhode Islanders have been on like reality TV.
Yeah, let's
I
we
gotta
look
do.
into
We
that.
gotta look into that. If anybody knows, so we don't have to do it, you tell,
I know
tell us.
PVD Biggie is one. She's really popular. She's Dominican, Afro Dominican, and she was on. I think she was on Bad Girls Club.
Really?
She's
Dude,
very
I
popular.
haven't watched that since like the first season. That
Yeah,
was what, 20 years ago.
yeah, she's very popular. She makes a lot of club appearances. I'd love to get her on the pod. If anyone knows PVD Biggie, please send her our way.
Okay. So anyway, we watched the very first episode last week of Love Hotel
In style.
in style. It was so, I don't know, it was so much fun. I don't know if I'll be able to watch any TV, any reality TV unlike that again. But we were at Lincoln Cinema World, and it was the host of all of Wale's friends and family, his mom, who is fabulous looking,
Yes, dope.
his
A
sister,
queen.
who we had on the podcast as well, Dr. Alesh. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, it was a great time. It was a great time.
Yeah, so just picture it. Big screen, like watching a premiere of a show on a big screen, and he had food. Okay, the weight of my heart is always food. So the
Mhm.
spread that he put on for us, that he had in the theater for us, shout out to his employer who actually sponsored that event. So it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like a red carpet level premiere, and the girls came out like, I didn't realize Wale and Mia's friends are. I know Wale and Mia are stylish, but
Uh-huh.
their friend group, I'm like, why do you all look like supermodels?
They do. They
Like
do.
y'all are
They're all
all
gorgeous.
beautiful, gorgeous people.
Hmm. Gorgeous. Love them. And good people.
Yes,
It's
very
one thing
nice.
to be gorgeous and not good people, but I will say 98% are great people.
Not not the 2%, but so stylish and so like vibrant, full of energy, just like and so supportive of Wale. Every time he had a kissing scene, the audience exploded, and I was joining in too because every time he had a kissing scene, and he had a couple, he had a
Mhm.
few, we were all like, "Woo!"
I got his mama. You see this? You see this?
He said his mom had jokes about it.
See,
It
I
was so
know she
funny.
did. I know she did. It was fun. It was. I had never met her before, but it was really great to meet her. Two wonderful kids she raised. I know there's others in there, but those two, we love them.
So the premise of Love Hotel, which is a Bravo TV show, another
Mhm.
Andy Cohen special, is that four women from the Housewives franchise have been dropped on this island at the Love Hotel, and they have suitors there waiting for them, and it's up to them to pick from these suitors. I want to say Wale is the youngest of them all, correct?
I think there might be another guy
Or
who
they
we
might be bringing
see a
more
lot
guys.
of, but he was pretty much so one of the youngest. And I have to shout out the other. You mean we had someone from Boston
His
who
name was Jay.
his name? Yeah, I can't remember his like full name, but I mean we got to support that brother too because he's right next door.
I, I think you almost got the hookup that night, Shahida. He was like, "Y'all single? Y'all single?" I got my boy Jay's number,
We'll find out.
but we don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know the outcome. You can watch on Sundays at 9 p.m. So,
You have to
um,
watch
you have to watch
the
Love
local
Hotel
one.
because what I like is that of the four women, is it four women? Three of them are of a particular age. So
Yeah.
and the suitors, a lot of them are of a particular age. So it's not
Mhm.
just these young snatch girls. There is one young snatch girl there for Wale.
Ashley from Real Housewives of, is it Potomac? Yeah, Real Housewives of Potomac.
And
Ashley.
Giselle Bryant, who is
Giselle is from there as well.
older, but obviously a stunner. And then there's your girl, the Countess,
Luann
Luann, and Shannon.
Shannon, who, what did you say about Shannon? Because I
I
just,
said so many things, but I said she looked
the
like
dressing.
a Lululemon store threw up on.
No, you didn't say Lululemon. We were talking another
Not
design.
Sorry, Lily Pulitzer.
Yes.
A
It's
Lily
like
Pulitzer
this
store
woman
threw up on her.
went in that store and said, I just want every dress,
In my size.
every color, and I'm just gonna,
It
just
looked like a Vera Bradley store just
yeah, she's not my favorite she's on real, well she was. I think they booted her off of that show. She was on
Mm.
Real Housewives of not OC. Yeah, she was. She was OC. So
Mm.
she was on that one, and she got booted. But yeah, she's not a favorite. But Luann, Real Housewives of New York, that's been my girl from day one. But when she first got on there, she was, I'm a countess, and she was really fruitful. She was a pain in
She's
the ass.
funny.
And then her husband left her for a black woman, and it all went down.
Who?
The count left her for a black woman, and that humbled her so much. Her attitude can change completely. She did a complete 180 because she was just too full of herself and this countess, lifestyle that she was trying to project. And, ever since then, that's when I started liking her because she is funny. She is funny.
Interesting. Well, I think that, everyone should tune in. I want to get Wale's Instagram handle so folks can follow him.
Oh yeah, he's
Um,
putting up a lot of stuff.
so his Instagram is YOUUFIRST. So you first with two U's at you first on Instagram. And he's definitely still doing his thing with Yellow Cup. He also has some really great DIY videos on his Instagram. Like I'm so jealous of the home improvement projects that he's doing. He even had a video on how to get your Timberlands clean.
This man looks good. He looks good. He dresses well, and his house is like chef's
The
kiss.
epitome of black dandyism. Like,
Mhm.
that's a buzzword with the Met Gala coming up and all of that stuff. If you don't know what black dandyism is, I can't even really explain it. I know what it looks like to the eye, but you can Google it and there's so many videos online about it. But he had his
I've never heard of
suspenders
that.
on, black dandyism.
Mhm.
It's really just like it's almost like a throwback to the style of dress.
I can figure it out
Yeah.
because I know that, but I've never heard of that as a thing on the internet.
Yeah, so that's
Cool.
the theme of the Met Gala this year. That's like the inspiration. So think of like Coleman Domingo, like how he
Okay.
dresses. The
Yeah.
singer Jadena,
Hmm.
how he dresses, and sometimes he'll have like the 20s inspired haircut. Think about the movie Sinners, like how the
Let's
men
talk
dress.
about sinners.
Let's talk about it.
Because I was begging you to go see
And
Sinners.
I
And
was
you was
like, I
like,
don't want to see
no,
that.
no, I don't like scary movies. I don't like scary movies. And I was taking a little nap this week,
Just a little snooze.
just a little nap after work because I was dead tired. My phone starts ringing, and I'm like, do I answer? I answer because it's my girl. I'm going to answer. And my girl was like, what? What did you say about Sinners?
It was amazing.
Amazing.
I loved it. I loved it. My husband loved it. We probably would go see it again.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to give away any spoilers because we know a lot of people probably haven't seen it. I can't imagine that you haven't, but we're not going to give away spoilers. But one of the things that I said about it that I absolutely loved was the fact that it takes place in 1930s Jim Crow Mississippi, but you don't feel that. That was not the high point of the movie. It was a backdrop. We knew what our black brothers and sisters were suffering through, but we got the joy.
Hmm.
We got the joy and the perseverance of why we were able to go from Jim Crow, Mississippi to where we are now, because it's something that's just like, built within us, and we persevered, and he actually showed that. The music, stop playing with me.
And the guy, the composer of
Stop
the
playing with
score, he's worked with Ryan Coogler, the director,
me.
in the
Hmm.
past. And Ryan Coogler's getting a lot of buzz. I think this man is
Deserve
incredible.
every bit of it.
I love his freaking LA accent. I don't know if it's South Central. I want to say it's a South Central accent. I don't know his
Hmm.
actual origins, but I love the fact that he shows up with his cornrows and his California accent, and he's unapologetically an authentic, genuine black man, and he answers the racist questions that are thrown at him every single day over this movie. Every single day, the stupidity that comes out of the mouths of interviewers, he answers them with such grace and style, but still putting people in their place. Like fire. And the movie was spectacular. It
And
was
it's an original
well done.
screenplay. It's not based on anything else. It's an original screenplay that he developed. And we don't get a lot of that. We're getting a lot of rehash of older movies. We're getting a lot of rehash
Regurgitation,
of older story, and we know, especially with, and I will let people know that it is a vampire movie. It
which
does
is
not
why
have to
if
do
you had said
with
vampire
possession.
from the rip, I would have been there the first day. I love vampire stuff.
It's a vampire movie. And again, we are in 2025. So
Hmm.
there are not a lot of things that are completely original, but you can make something your own. And that's what he did. Because I heard somebody saying, well, he just rehashed some Quentin Tarantino movie. Which one was it?
Absolutely
From
not.
Dusk Till Dawn. And I'm like,
Absolutely not.
nothing is ever original. It's what you bring to it of yourself. Really, you make it your own. So, and that's exactly what he did. He made it his own. But back to the music. I am
Hmm.
not a blues person, and I actually took my grandson to go see it with me. And I said, "Be prepared to be sick of me, Darius, because
Happy
as
birthday.
soon I know, happy belated. He turned 14. Ugh, ugh. But as soon as we got in that car, I downloaded that soundtrack and have been killing it ever since.
To the point where he had to ask you to stop.
But you can ask me to stop. You can ask.
But it's your car. So
Fine.
so I want to kind of like shout out some of the cast. So
Especially the
um
20-year-old. Please shout out that man's name.
oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. I didn't realize that Saul Williams was in it. I need to go back. Hold on.
Yeah, I've read that. I still have to go back and I can't recall.
So I'm gonna get to the 20-year-old, but my
Uh,
favorite character was Annie.
yes. I think that
Wu-
was my favorite.
Masaku is the actress that played the most gorgeous black woman I've seen on a screen in a very long time. In a very long time. So what was it? Let me see. What was the name of the young man? Oh my gosh, his name was Sammy. His character was Sammy. IMDb is not doing me any favors. Delroy Lindo was in it. Of course, Michael B.
Mhm.
Jordan, who did an amazing job playing two roles, not one, but
Mhm.
two. Um, oh my gosh. Hold on. I gotta Google it because this is not
So
helping.
while you're Googling, one of the things that Tracy and I were talking about when she called this week was there are not many movies that has a predominantly dark skinned cast.
Mm,
And I did not even I thought I had to have thought about it on some kind of subconscious level, because usually if there is a movie with a darker male, especially a darker African American male, there's always going to be a very light, a very ambiguously black, and we did
mhm.
have an ambiguously black woman in it, but that was
The
for
character. The
that
character.
was for yeah, that was for the character. But you have Annie's role. Then there was another singer. She was dark skinned. It was it's almost amazing for our culture that as dark women, and Tracy and I are both darker skinned women,
Mhm.
that we are not represented like that in movies, even by African American men or women.
So her name was Jamie Lawson and her character was Perline.
Okay, yeah, she did
Yes.
a fabulous job.
She did an amazing job. And the singer, so the main character, really, the protagonist is Sammy, and his name is Miles Caton. The actor
Mhm.
that played him is Miles Caton.
20,
Voice,
20
his
years old.
voice is just so it's just like the care that went into the casting, the
Mhm.
costume design. There's also, I want to shout out Omar Benson Miller, who was
Mhm.
Cornbread in this film. he's one of those guys, you've seen him in so many
So
movies,
many
and I
things.
didn't know
Yeah.
his name until
Hmm.
this movie. I didn't know his name, but I've seen him. He's such a part of Black film culture from the time he was a young man. I'm trying to think of some. Let me see the other movies
But
that
that
he did.
that scene that everybody loves of him, it was actually going to be cut. And it was,
Really?
yeah, I saw an interview with him and Delroy Lindo
Oh,
yesterday, and they were
I love
talking
him.
about how that was going to be cut. And I'm like, it was, it's probably one of the scenes that everybody talks about. Like, it's
Mhm.
funny, it's dramatic, it got a little scary there. I mean, you could not cut that scene. And
Yeah,
I'm glad that they were able to catch that they couldn't, but it was a phenomenal film.
it was
I
great.
plan on definitely seeing it again. I was gonna go today, but I think I'm gonna wait till Tuesday to go and see it again.
If
But
you see it in Rhode Island, or
mhm,
if you have this feature, we went to the X theater at
mhm, Apple
Apple
Cinema.
Cinemas in Warwick. They have a wraparound screen.
Mhm,
And so it's almost like, those tanning shields that people used to use in the 70s that
mhm,
folds, and it's like the flat part in the front and then the fold things on the side.
mhm,
That's how the screen wraps around.
mhm,
So you almost feel like when they're driving through the field of flowers,
mhm.
you feel like you're in the car with them.
So
It's
I
such a
hope that
great
they still
experience.
have it there because I know like it's been taken out of IMAX to make move for Thunderbolts and another IMAX movie, but they're bringing it back to IMAX as well. I think
Because the Sinners
later
is
this
doing
month.
so amazingly. It's doing so amazing. It's tracking to recoup its investment, which I think was
Oh, it
90.
already passed it.
Oh,
It
so
already passed it. I
which
think
I'm
it's
not shocked.
200 million now. So, and I think it was 90 million to make it, and now it's at 200 million, and that
Yeah.
was as of Friday. So that's not even counting this weekend's take.
Ryan Coogler is a freaking genius. He must be protected at all costs because the deal he made with the studio means that in 25 years, from the signing of the agreement, he will own full rights to the movie, which is almost unheard of. It's very rarely done in the industry. It's not the first time, but it's rarely done. Most of the
Making
time,
it like, oh my God, he's gonna single handedly ruin
the
the
film
film
industry,
industry
whatever.
because of
No,
this
he's
deal. And it's like,
revolutionizing it. He's revolutionizing it, especially for Black creators. So,
absolutely, yeah, the hate that the movie has gotten and the asterisks on it have been like really incredible. That one thing that fuels white hate is Black excellence, and you
yeah,
really
but
see it
they'll go
out.
see Black Panther, and Black Panther's okay because it's not real. This is too real ish. I mean, to a certain degree, some of it is fantasized, but because of the strength of the characters, the final scene, we're not even gonna spoil it for you.
No, you
But
got
that final scene, I mean,
chef's kiss. It was, I mean, it was beautiful. It was probably the best horror movie that I've seen because it was actually the horror part of it may
was
have
secondary.
lasted. It was extremely secondary. It might have been 20 minutes of the film. The rest of it was the
Yeah,
build up.
the very beginning of it was setting a tone, setting a
Mhm,
scene, character. I mean, the character development, even for those minor characters like Cornbread, was there. Like you knew all about Cornbread. So when his big moment happened in the film, you were not just thinking about him. You were thinking about his wife. You were
mhm,
thinking about what's going to happen to these other people that are impacted by what's happened to him. Like my mind was going a mile a minute, and there's still so much I feel like could have been fleshed out in this film. Like I
mhm,
wanted to know more about Haley Steinfeld's character. I wanted to know more about her mother.
mhm,
The who we never got to see in the film, but was a big part of the storyline of what happened in the film and why things happened the way that they did. So, I mean, I'm down for a prequel or a part two.
I know they said there is going to be a part two. And sometimes I'm one of those people. because
Just leave. Let's leave. But one thing
witness, just leave it.
but one
You
thing
know,
I do want to
but
mention
I
is
trust him.
if you go to the theater and you see this, stay past the credits because there is not one
It's
um,
too
special moment after the end of the film, but there's a second one. So you got to just stay until, like, even if you see everybody get up
the
and
little lights come
leave,
on.
stay and
I
watch
missed the second one.
until the screen goes black. It's just like a Marvel film.
Yeah,
If you get up and leave, you're gonna miss it. So
I
stay.
missed it.
Yeah,
I
stay.
saw the first one. I was like, oh, that's it. Okay, I got it. And I missed my parents went to go see it earlier in the week. And I was trying my best not to hype it up. I just want, but I couldn't help it because I just knew that they
Shahida
would
was the
love it.
only one in in our book club. When we had our book club the other night, you were the only one that was like, "Yeah, I'm definitely going to see." Everybody else was kind of like, "Eh." I was one of them. I was like, "Ah, I don't
Mhm.
really like horror stuff." And don't get me wrong, it was a horror film, but I love a good vampire story, and this is one of the best I've seen.
Did you talk to your girl, Teresa?
I have not, but I know she watches the podcast, so
And Teresa, I'm telling you, I was telling Tracy the other night, I said, Tracy, call Teresa because I was trying my hardest to get you to be like, no, but you was adamant. Now Tracy went to go see it, so now
I
you got to
did. I
because it
did.
was
And
absolutely
I am
phenomenal.
glad. I'm so glad that you
And she
really
will love it. If you love books, which we all know she does,
and
you love
we
listening
don't
to
even
stories.
got we don't got time here to
Mm-hmm.
talk about how my Christian friends were the main ones like this movie was bomb, okay? We don't even have time to talk about that. That some of my most Bible thumping friends
Okay.
loved, enjoyed, and did not find this movie to be sacrilegious.
Yeah,
But some people do. Some people are like, "Oh, it's gonna
with vampire movies. Okay.
damage your soul to go see this movie." No, this movie was amazing. Take the religion. I don't want to say take the religion out of it because actually one of the most pivotal scenes is very relevant to the Bible and to understanding Christianity because that's a big part of Black American culture. But you don't have to sacrifice your Christianity to enjoy this film. I'll put that out there. And if you just feel like you don't need to see it, then don't go see it. But don't be dogging this man because he did amazing work.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna leave it at that because I got
Yeah,
things to say. But I'm
we ain't got time to go into all of that.
so until next time, enjoy Cinco de Mayo. Have a great week.
Enjoy Cinco de Mayo, and if you see a racist while you're out there, please call their ass out on their hypocrisy. Um, if you see anybody pull up to the cantina with a Trump sticker, please call their ass out. Okay,
Johnson,
that's
we don't want you celebrating at all.
that's your home. That's
Johnson,
your
stay
homework
out of it.
assignment, Johnston. You're in timeout from Cinco de Mayo, but
Stay out.
you know
All
where to
right.
find us.
Until next time,
Until next time, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, we are at Little State Big Voices. Shahida, where will we not be found?
we are not on TikTok.
No,
I'm
we're
trying
not.
not to curse as much because, goddamn, this week has been bad for me. But we'll talk about that next week. I'm
Yeah.
trying not to curse. I'm trying to be a better person. But
Oh,
this country's got me messed up.
I love that for you. I'm still
Got me
cussing.
messed up.
I'm still cussing.
You know I am. I'm just trying to limit it. Choice times.
So are you gonna put a little teaser in honor of sinners? Are you gonna put a little extra at the end of this episode for our viewers?
I am going to put a little extra, but that was definitely Wale.
Yeah.
But
But
oh, okay. I
I'm
just
saying
said,
in the spirit of an extra
oh,
scene
okay.
after
There you
the
go. There
thing.
is a little
Yeah.
extra clip of us.
It's extra clip. So stay tuned after we log off here. Stay tuned for a little sweet extra little something from us to you.
All right. Have a great week.
Have a good one.
My journals. Right. Yeah, do something.
So, Wale,
Yes, ma'am.
what's it like being part of Love Hotel? What's your biggest take?
I loved it. You know, all the women on the show were super nice, friendly. You know, I was really out there looking for love, and maybe I found it. Y'all just gonna have to tune in.
You will have to stay tuned
You know,
to
me and
find
Missy
out.
hit it off, a little smoke, you know what I mean? But
You doubled back and you